This is GM Backwoods? Smoke Backwoods? No, this is GM Blackwoods. And this is the first in my hopefully long series of map reviews and critiques. GM Backwoods is made by a raccoon eating a grape. That's his Steam name. And it's a cool little map, and I really like it. The map is, about a square. It's a square divided by a road in the middle. On one side you've got a lake, on the other you've got a hill and a cabin over there. It's got a decent soundscape, and this beautiful road. Look at this beautiful road. Look how perfectly it's curved. The texture aligns perfectly. This placement's good. Now the texture over here, kind of not good. You can see that tiling really well from pretty much anywhere. There's no detail texture, so it kind of looks like crap. But it's you can't be perfect. I always look at that little rock right there on that hill, and I really like that rock right there. That rock right there is really cool. It looks like a castle out in the distance, but it's not. It's just a rock. I know this map is based off of Oregon, and it really does fit. It fits it really well, especially the ground cover. Just out here in general, it really does have the northwestern style. It's got a lake, there's a lot of lakes up there. But it really does fit the atmosphere well, especially the ground cover textures. Even though these, I think, are just Half-Life textures. And I'm pretty sure these detail sprites are also Half-Life textures, although these might be custom. If they're custom, they absolutely need some sway on them, because this is there's no sway, so they just look bad. There needs to be some sway on these detail sprites. It's quite a large map, decently sized. It's not the whole hammer grid, but that actually gives it more scenery points, because this map uses a technique that is, I wouldn't say uncommon, but you don't see it very much. So instead of using the 3D skybox to put your out-of-bounds terrain, this map instead uses actual playable area, but it's clipped off. You notice that was an invisible wall right there I was bumping into. But this whole area back here is, playable. Making this area playable back here, I'm gonna say, making this in-world and not in skybox, it's a lot better to do that if you can get away with it. If you can create your out-of-bounds area in-world, it's quite a lot better, because then you don't have to worry about any skybox-related issues. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use a 3D skybox, and this map does use a 3D skybox, but it doesn't use it for any close local stuff. It uses it for its terrain, its distant terrain, which is really cool. So here's the 3D skybox. Now I think this was probably made with World Machine or something like that. The texture on it is beautiful. I'm assuming this is probably procedurally generated texture, but this could also be a terrain scan. This could be real terrain. I really like this texture. It looks good. It looks so good. The purling noise and stuff on that. Oh yeah. The only issue I have with it is that it's all a mesh, and you can walk on it, and there's no need for it to have a collision mesh at all. You don't need. No one's gonna be out here. I mean, I guess you could be. But there's no reason for this to actually have a collision mesh. That's, that's 10 trillion polygons more. The 2D skybox texture this map is using is called Snowy Day, and it's made by someone named Grippy. You can find it on FPS Banana, and it's a really, really, really good skybox for this map. Personally, I really don't like HDR. I don't use HDR in any of my maps, because I really just don't like the effect. I think it's stupid. I think the effect is dumb, and I'd rather have control over lighting via just light entities myself and kind of paint everything. I don't like to use HDR. Now, HDR is definitely cool if you in certain situations, but I just think it's kind of worthless, honestly. And in this situation, the you know, the tone map controller should be adjusted to not be that blown out. Like, it shouldn't be that bright when you're looking directly at it, and just in general, like that. That's dumb. And when you're looking at dark stuff, it gets brighter. Like, I mean, yeah, that's how the human eye is supposed to react or whatever. It's not actually how the human eye works. It's how cameras work when they auto, you know, expose. So really, like, HDR isn't, it's kind of stupid. And this is another thing I want to do in this series. I'm not just reviewing maps, I'm talking about, you know, technical things about the Source Engine. So hopefully people will like me talking about these things. Critiques about the map. So there's no, like, optimization going on in the map. So there's no, like, occluders behind this pile of rocks or anything. There's no occluders underneath this hill. You could put occluders all over this map and it would make it run a little bit better. People that... So there's this long-running lie if you look at Hammer tutorials about area portals and occluders, and I think it might even say it on the wiki where it's like, it says don't use too many area portals because it will bog down your performance, but that's entirely untrue. The FPS saved by removing geometry is significantly more than the FPS lost by using multiple area portals. So, like, in this situation, you can see there's no area portals in this cabin, and there should be. It's totally enclosed. You've only got, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 little spots, so that would be 4 area portals, and you'd be getting... I mean, I'm still getting max FPS when I'm looking this direction. If I look this way, oh, geez, what's going on there? 23. So that's pretty bad. Another problem with this cabin is just, this is me nitpicking, but if I made this map myself, this is something I would be complaining about. The texture on these stairs, not only are the front ones aren't too bad, like I can, you know, that's not a big deal, even though those textures aren't aligned the way they should be. The top one, geez, you shouldn't use this texture on the stairs, and also they should be clipped. You can tell it's like kind of bouncing. It should be clipped. Another thing, this displacement is intersecting into these stairs, but that's just you know, I'm not telling a raccoon eating grape how to do his job. You know, this isn't like a paid map or anything. He did this for free and uploaded it to the workshop. So that's like the only problem in this whole map that I can find, is that specifically, that like one area, and the lack of, you know, technical optimization. Realistically, a lot of GMOD players do have bad computers. A lot of people are playing on crappy laptops, and, you know, it's always good to increase your FPS. You want your map to run as good as possible, especially outside maps like this. Another thing of optimization that could be done on this map is areas that are out of bounds. Since this is an invisible wall right here, all these displacements, these could have collisions disabled. Same with all these props. All these props need to have collisions disabled. Collision meshes on props are actually quite a lot more taxing than you would assume whenever you have a lot of them. It's really not a big deal, especially in this map. There's not, you know, too much. It's really not a big deal ever. But just for optimization's sake, you should always disable collisions on models that aren't going to be collided with, just because that's the proper way of mapping, really. You don't really have to, honestly, it doesn't matter, but it will make some difference. I'd say this map is really good. I really like it. It's a great map. And I'd give this map a 4 out of 5. And since this is the first episode, I'm also going to explain the rating scale, with 5 being an absolute masterpiece reserved for works of art such as Union City, I mean. Not Uniontown. Hey, bro, 724, Uniontown, bro. Anyway, Union City, that would be a 5. My system is 0 through 5, with 0 being absolutely unplayable garbage, 5 being an absolute work of art. There is no middle. You can't have a 2.5 in my scoring system. There is no middle ground. It's either the map is bad or the map is good. If the map gets 3 or more, it's good. If the map gets 2 or less, it's bad. And that's kind of like, it's a binary system, but it's also a system that allows me to go a little bit farther with that. So this map gets a 4, which is probably the highest score I'll give 99% of maps. Most maps are going to get a 4. So this map shouldn't be grouped, it shouldn't be thought less of because it's not a 5. Most maps are not going to get 5. 5s are going to be very rare. But for now, this is GM Blackwoods. It's a really great map. You should go download it, play around with it. Whenever I used to play Gary's Mod when I was younger and I would just play Sandbox by myself and, do whatever, I'd drive around and make little scenes, I would have a lot of fun on this map. There's a lot of cool stuff to do. This car's really loud, but it's like, especially just for driving around, like this is really fun. The zones. Well, that's GM Blackwoods. Very cool map. You could do a lot in this map on Gary's Mod. Really good for maybe movies, scenes, good set piece. And that's it. That's GM Blackwoods by a raccoon eating a grape.